Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for some people, it's good morning, depending
Yes.
on where you are. As you know, my name is Zenzi Sewa, and I'm here for Spiritual Infinity. And today, my guest is Ashley Renee Casey. And she's a wife, she's a mother, she's an entrepreneur, she sings in a band, a bit, as like most of us do. And she's here today to share with us her spiritual journey from where it started, whether it was painful, whether it's nice, whether it's a bump in the head, whatever. But it's here to for her to share her journey. And she is in St. Louis, Missouri. And it's cold there, and I'm in London, and it's cold here too. The sun is shining, we've got blue skies, but it's cold. It's cold. So without much ado, some places have snow already. So without much ado, Ashley Renee, welcome.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for today.
Thank you for joining us on Spiritual Infinity. And we're here today to listen to your spiritual journey. What made you get on that path? What drove you there? And how it's worked into your life up to present day. So over to you. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So my spiritual journey, probably like most people, has involved a lot of pain, a lot of tribulation, and a lot of self-reflection in order to get me to where I'm at. I grew up in Houston, so I grew up in Houston, Texas, so in the southern states in the United States, in a religious type family, and then did not follow all of the rules and got pregnant when I was 18 and became a single mother. And that really jump started me into being an adult very quickly and having to navigate what that means to be responsible for another person. Um, Very, very thankful. My mom, she supported me and helped me while I went to school, to university, got my degree. And after I was finished, I had two kids by the time I was done, and they were 5 years apart. But my mom was like, "You are not relocating with the company and allowing my kids or my grandchildren to be, watched by somebody we don't know." So my mom actually moved around with me, with my kids, just me, my mom, and my two boys, and moved to different places in the United States, got a chance to meet different people. One of the last places that we moved before landing in St. Louis was actually Fort Worth, Texas, where I kind of went deeper into religion. And unfortunately, though, I was faced with people that did not what we were learning, in that religious sense, it wasn't aligning, with what some people were doing. Um, and it did not sit right in my spirit that, our actions, what we were doing. And so that was the point that I started to step back so that I could observe and see, is what this particular church is what they were teaching, and how the behaviors, the fruit of the spirit, if you will, is it right? And so I stepped back, and then that's when I started to get deeper into my spiritual journey of prayer and of meditation and of self-reflection to better understand what was sitting in my spirit and what God, the universe, and spirit were telling me. And that was kind of how my spiritual journey, kind of began, in a short way.
Okay, let me just stop you there
Yeah.
because you had two children, you've gone to university, and you're following this spiritual path. Was there something in particular that made you jolt and think about that inner self, that's that spirit within? Was there a particular situation or situations that was forcing you to turn that way?
Specifically here in the States, it happened to be that combination of politics and religion. So at the time of, it was around 2016, And there was, a big election here. And in that election, a lot of people began becoming very boisterous. And unlike, previous political cycles, there was a lot of, religious talk in this particular one. And I'm biracial. My mom is Black and my dad is white. Both my boys, they're Black. And at that same time of this election, we also had a lot of racial tension from, Trayvon Martin, who was a young boy, killed without cause. And as a mother of two Black sons in a church with people who were also not just being religious, but also backing a movement that was against my children,
Ah, okay.
that
So,
didn't fit.
so within the church, here you are in this church because it would seem that you had that religious streak and you wanted to bring up your children in the church and you wanted to follow that. But in that church, you saw biasness, you
Yes,
saw prejudice. And here we are in a church praying to God, to Christ, the Savior, and yet here is this prejudice, which is not right. Right.
correct.
So I can understand now how that's like, I'm in church praying, and these people are doing this. How? What
Yeah,
God are we serving?
yeah. And
Okay, please continue.
yeah, and even like, and what hurt me the most was even when I would share, how their behaviors and the things that they were supporting were directly against me and my children, and how also that their stances did not align with what we were being taught, from the Bible, which is supposed to be the foundation. Even after I shared these things and pointed them out, it was as if it fell on deaf ears.
Oh,
Yeah, and yeah, no, yeah, it was a big ouch. And like, it's because I was on the worship team, I was in several ministries, like I was involved in the church. My boys went to, the summer camps, like I was deep in the church. And
okay.
I was happy. My spirit was filled with joy because I had that connection, like I'd always been connected to God, and feeling the love, from God. But to have the people of God not hear the pain that I was experiencing as a mother in
Mhm.
this current situation, that was like a dagger to my soul, and like it crippled me. Like I could not. It took me a very long time to try to figure out how to grapple with that, because it went against everything that I was raised with, and it went
And
against everything that made
what the
sense.
church and what we're saying in the church as well. So
Yes,
it's,
yes,
do they
yes,
not see it?
yes. And
Okay.
so that was when I stepped away, so that I didn't have like all of the fanfare, right, that comes along with, because it was pretty close to a mega church that I was at. Like, wasn't super mega, but it was a large church. Um, and so by stepping away and taking that time to pause and do my own self-reflection without, doing what felt like everyone was telling me to do, or what was the norm for my upbringing growing up in the southern states in America, um, that was not easy. Es-
No.
Especially at that time, I lived in Texas also, which I don't know if you know a lot about Texas, but Texas has a lot of church. So it was difficult to even find people I could connect with who were open to having spiritual conversations.
You know what you're saying is, and I'm glad you're saying this because you grew up in the South, and we hear a lot about the South with slavery and all the rest. A lot of going on in the South. And
Yeah,
as you said, all these churches in the South and calling on Jesus in the South. And yet you look at the attitude and say, how?
yeah,
when you actually look at where Jesus came from,
Yeah.
Africa continent, you know, what
Mhm.
planet do you think the man was? Talking about way back. And we've seen through history, architecture, um, that people back in those days, and he was a carpenter. He was out in the sun all day. What skin color did you think he was?
Yeah.
Person who works, and I'm not here, you know, to say he was a black man, but let's look at the area and the job he did. Hello.
Yeah.
And so the world is waking up. Trust me, the world is now, because a lot of things were twisted and people could not see it, unfortunately, because their minds were washed and the belief system was put in to think that way. So please go on. Go
Yeah,
on.
I 100% agree with you on that. And you know, especially in certain parts of the world, I think it's even more prevalent. I think it has a lot to do with power and the
Yeah,
people in positions of power wanting to try to maintain that power. And
yeah.
now I think we even see some of those people are becoming fearful of
Yes,
people like us
yes,
who are waking up
yes.
and seeing, no, what you're saying and doing is not aligned with
With
how we are supposed to. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
so people like us in that waking up, it's going to be even more important for us to find
yeah,
the language, to
yes,
find the ways to move
yeah.
in order to get them, you know, everyone else to wake up too.
Because it is a case of, as much as I brought, you know, I brought in the color aspect, but what God created everybody,
Yes.
everything. So we're all connected. Doesn't matter what shade, what gender, we're all connected. We were all created, and we should all be coming from love. And there is good and bad everywhere. So we should be judging on our actions, our thoughts, our heart. This is what the Creator's saying.
Yes. And we can't do that with hate in our hearts.
We
We can't
can't.
do that with prejudging
Yeah,
someone.
yeah,
And so in making that decision, like I said, it was very difficult, especially being in the South and being in a city in Texas. Um,
yeah,
but the peace that came after, the answers that came after, the uh, the way that things have just, you know, kind of flown and the way that my eyes have been opened up, I wouldn't change my decision for anything, even if it's not always a popular decision or one that people question, you know,
yeah,
because I feel more in taking that step back. I believe that when we take the step back and we ask the questions and we allow ourselves to be still,
mm-hmm.
to feel and to hear, that we
Mm-hmm.
get that guidance on where not only where to go, but also who to go
Yes,
to for
yeah,
that pocket of peace and
yes,
protection, you know.
yeah.
And I've been very blessed that continuously, you know, people have shown up in my life and places have shown up that for me that are those safe spaces where there are like-minded people, you know.
People, yeah. And I like what you just said is that time for us to stand still, to be still, and to go within and to listen, because that power is in everybody without exception, without exception, because the Creator created us all. And we all need to step back. And that happened in the 2021 when we know with COVID things happened. We were forced, the world was forced to brakes. And a lot of people went within, and there was a lot of shaking and realization. And that shows you we need that stillness, preferably on a daily basis, just to go within to connect.
Yes. And you mentioned something like 2021 and people not being able to connect in person with each other.
Mm,
Unfortunately, we turned to online because that's mostly what we could do.
mm,
And I'll say that, so as an entrepreneur in my space, like I'm helping the people to get off of technology,
mm,
because I strongly believe that that constant connection to technology and that constant scrolling that we do, we're not still when we're doing that, even though, yes, we're physically still.
yes.
But if we are constantly connected, we can't have that connection to the spiritual world as
Mhm.
tightly as we need to. And we can't listen
Yeah,
to ourselves if we're constantly scrolling to see what other people are saying,
yeah,
and we can't hear spirit if we always have other people's voices in our head too.
yeah. You're very right. I mean, technology is here, and we need to use it wisely. And we need to realize that we should be in control of it, not it in control of us. And
Yes.
it's like going to work. There's a time to work, and there's a time to relax. There's a time to just be still. And technology is the same. There's a time for that use of technology, and there's a time when we need to leave it and we need to go within, because we are the powerhouse. We
Yeah.
are the full within. Yeah.
And with it, I feel very, very strongly like when people feel that on their hearts,
Mhm.
we have to protect ourselves as well
Yeah.
and be very mindful with what we consume, because what
Yes.
we consume is what we become, right? And what we consume is what we allow to grow inside of our minds, inside of our bodies, and in our spirits. And so that being mindful of who we're interacting with in person, but also what we're interacting with and who we're interacting with online is
Online.
very important.
Oh, so much. Because as we all know, technology is here. We cannot avoid it.
Correct.
It has made life so much easier. Look, you and I are talking today. You're in one part of the world. I'm in the next part of the world. There is a time difference, and yet we're here. Even in
Yeah.
that time difference, we are here. So it's a great thing. And and I love it because so much it's helping me. But there's a time when you say, okay, as I said, like work, time to put it down, time to connect one to one, time to be still, time to connect with source, to cleanse, to heal, to understand, to be guided. And it all has its place. But that connection is prime. It's prime. It's the most important thing.
Yes. And I don't think a lot of people are being constantly connected. I
Mm.
think has made people forget that we
Yes.
have the power to
Yeah.
be still. And
Yeah.
in that stillness, we don't need to have it occupied with something in our hands or something in our face. And
Yes.
that's making space for that is how we feel the deeper connection.
Yes.
And so we have to find that space and be intentional to make that space, and just be very mindful, to
Yeah.
set that balance so that we can continue to hear. I was happy for COVID to be able to disconnect a little bit and kind of, from the world. But not in COVID anymore. We got to get out and find the other, people
Yeah.
who are like us, so that we can be more intentional now, and in the real world, and bring these connections that we've made online over these years,
Mhm.
out to the real world, and spaces like what you've created here. Like, yes, I completely agree. Like, this is so beautiful. Today I learned, and before we started, that it snows in Scotland very heavily. I wouldn't have necessarily known that because I wouldn't have sought that information out somewhere. But since you taught me something today.
Yeah, no, as you said, we have to be intentional. It has to be not, oh, by the way, it has to be our priority. It
Yes.
has to be our first, our first, our last, and our everything. And everything then fits around that, not that fits around everything.
Yes.
You know that
Yes.
song, Barry White, our first, our last, our everything. And truly, because we are spiritual beings with a physical body having a human experience, we are first spirit and we are physical. That's because we need to be on this earth plane and we need the flesh for it. When we're ready to go, we don't need the flesh, we leave it behind. And science has said we are energy, and we are energy now, very much alive. And when the body no longer can hold it, the energy still goes on. Energy never dies. So we are eternal. We always exist. We just change form. So our spirit is first and foremost for us to live on this earth plane and to function. We need that spiritual guidance to understand how we do things, what's possible, what's not possible, what's capable, what not capable, but realizing we are power beyond power.
And a lot of people, you just dropping gems because a lot of people don't realize that. A lot
No.
of people just like move about, and their only focus is, yeah, keep the body healthy, which we do need to keep our bodies healthy. But we prescribe to the structures that we've created, around making lots of money, buying, the things, doing the things, but we're
Mm.
missing the point,
Yeah.
of being, like you said, of being spiritual beings, just and having this human experience. And part of the point is that connection, is the different lessons that, maybe in a previous experience we didn't learn, and now we got to learn it here, or that being able to teach other people what we've learned, and connect in that way, instead of how a lot of people do is, moving through being sleepy, or moving through thinking that, I have to do just these very specific things and stay inside of this box. And that's not what it's about. That's not what we're called to do. That's not what we're here for. That's
No.
man-made.
So Renee, so Ashley, you came as you're moving through, and you stood back from the church. They weren't listening, and you had to then step away and find a different path, a
Yeah.
spiritual path to keep you strong. And I like when you said it may not be popular, but you're not after popularity. What you're after is a genuine path that's going to serve you, serve your spirit, and a truthful one. So, what direction then did you take?
Yeah. So for me, my spiritual journey has been more about connecting to what I call the spiritual world. Um, I heard someone once call it GUS, so God, universe, and spirit, and I really like that. That really resonated with me. So that's kind of how I've been moving. So like my MO through life is, now making sure that I do find stillness to listen to what is on my heart, because I don't believe that we're disconnected from that spiritual space. And I
Mm,
do strongly believe that it is in that, in our stillness, that we create, that we can hear. But as long
mm,
as I could keep myself busy, I can't, it's harder to hear. I do believe that we can still hear in movement, right? There are definitely moments when I'm in the middle of something and spirit talks to me and I have to stop what I'm doing. But no, my after taking that time to step back, I've done a lot of reading and research to figure out like what spiritual space is for me. And the one that's resonated the most with me is the one of just um, feeling that connection to what is unknown and unseen, and
yeah.
listening to that, and more along the, things that have been around for millennia, like the planets and, the universe, and how all of those things on, and just again trusting my gut, because I
Mhm.
believe the gut and intuition is that spiritual connection for us. Brain and logic, that's based off of our brain is built off of what's seen and experienced because our brain is set to protect us.
Mm.
Our hearts, that's again what's experienced, whereas our gut,
Emotion, yeah.
that is the spiritual
Mm.
connection that we feel when we feel like anxiety and fear. That spirit, I believe,
Yeah.
speaking with us.
Yeah. So you're now going through your life away from the church, doing what you need to do with your meditation, and whatever. And how has that now impacted you in your life?
I have so much more peace. I feel like I have more peace, and strangely enough, I have more empathy, because now, and this is going to sound bad, but this is not who I am anymore. But now I'm not looking at the world through the lens of a religious structure that told me that certain people with certain markers are bad and inherently bad, and they're going to perish. I don't have that lens anymore. So now the way that I move through life is, with more openness, more understanding, more curiosity, even because that in order to have a strong spiritual, and not only to have a strong spiritual understanding, but also in order to move with purpose, the people who are placed in my path, I need to understand, is there a way that I can help them and support them? Because to me, that is how spiritual continuity exists, is
Mhm.
through genuine connection with people. And every person I feel like every person who I interact with, it's for a purpose. There is
Yeah.
nothing on accident.
No.
So that's kind of how I move through. And then also, in my research, Buddhism, that a lot of the principles and practices within Buddhism speak to me also. So that the idea of impermanence, that nothing is permanent. You wait long enough, it's going to change. you know, Death is inevitable. Like you said, like we're spiritual beings having a human experience. This is not the final state. Once this body is over, like it's something else, and that's beautiful. That's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. And like I'm 41 years old. I lost my dad when I was like literally 2 days before my dad passed. I found out I was pregnant. He had pancreatic cancer my senior year in high school. I didn't tell him that I was pregnant, but yeah, that was a very difficult time. So that between that and also my mom has sickle cell, so growing up she was always talking about death. So now at 41, my view of death is very different. And now that I know that the principle of impermanence comes from Buddhism, and actually, like in monasteries, they have images of corpses in there to remind the monks that this life is temporary and to live our life with intention, to remember that. So anyway, long answer to say my move through life now, the spiritual connection, to make sure that I find stillness, and also a lot of the principles within Buddhism.
Lovely. So this is your journey going through. How have you incorporated that into your life? Because as we said, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, you're a singer. So how has that impacted, and how are you doing things with that?
Yeah, so just making sure that I make space for other people. Um, I don't position myself, as the main character, um, whether that's good or bad. But I believe that in my spiritual journey, I am called to put others before me. Um, and so it's a lot of listening to hear both what's said and unsaid, to understand how I can support the people who are around me. So that's kind of how that shows up, and making sure that the people are around me feel loved,
Mm.
uh, so that when people who are not yet awake can have something demonstrated to them, or they can see what
Yeah,
awake looks like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
what being around someone who is awake feels like, so
yeah,
that they can continue to seek out people who are, in this space of, and not to sound braggy, but enlightened, and that's
I agree with you. You just said something again very significant. It's how you act, how you behave, and what you give out. You're the example for those who are sleeping. So hopefully they will see how somebody who is awakening, or who has awoken, acts, how they live their life, and hopefully that will influence them. Now, and this is what the church was meant to do. You know, you're supposed to go and they're supposed to live in a certain way that makes you feel, oh my gosh, this is right.
Yeah.
And but this is life. It's how we treat one another, how we react to one another, how we react to situations as well. You know, how we handle things, how we think about things, that then has an imprint on our actions. And it does come from within, because in order to change the things outwardly, you've got to change the things inwardly.
Yes.
Because now the inward now makes you act differently.
Yes.
Einstein said you can't keep on doing the same things and expect different results.
Yeah.
If you're doing something and then it's not producing the results you want, then you've got to change what you do. But to change what you do with the same mindset just means, instead of hitting the ball this way, you'll hit it that way. And it may be the item that you're using to hit the ball is not working. So you have to think about what you're doing, and that has to come from within. So you change your mindset. Therefore, your perspectives change, and therefore your actions change. Make sense? Yes.
Yes. And it's hard. The work is not easy. The work
No,
is not easy.
no, it's not.
And I think a
Because we're
lot of,
humans and we
yeah,
still got faults. And we know what we should do, but sometimes we don't do it because of those faults. And we just have to keep on going and paying attention and changing.
but to get through the work though, it's a good feeling once to be on the other side, like to be on this side. There is peace, there's comfort, there's solace, there is community as well.
Yeah. Because the like attract like. So
Yes.
once you step away from something and you start thinking differently, and thinking differently means you act differently. Once you start to act differently, you will attract different things within your life. And hopefully with that, as you say, community, so that you get that support as well. And it's not just about change and you stop. We're continually changing, because we're continue looking and getting that information and meditating and growing. And so it flows like water, ever
Yeah.
flow, never stilling. So, Ashley, you're an entrepreneur. What do you do?
So the name of my company is called Presence Over Pixels, and I am very passionate about getting people to get off, not necessarily to get off of technology, but to strike balance in technology. Because
Yeah.
I do strongly believe, like I love technology. Definitely don't want people to think that I hate technology, but I do strongly believe that it's a balance, that we have to be the ones telling the technology what we want it to do, not the technology dinging and then we go run towards it, because that, in doing that, we can't hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is really important that we are intentional with how we use our technology. So that's what Presence Over Pixels is about, like helping people to wake up from being zombified by their
Yeah.
devices.
Well, and we said this earlier. It's about being present, but it's about us being in control, because it's like cooking. I mean, back in the day when we were in caves or whatever, we rub sticks together, whatever, and blew the fire, and it took time. Now we've got cookers and things can cook quickly, and we can raise the heat, lower the heat, so we use it in order to enhance our life, to enrich our life so that we can do other things. So I'd see technologies using it so it can help us to do things in a quicker time, more efficiently, so that we have time to live. Living is
Yes.
not the computer. Living could be going for a walk. Living could be spending more time with your family. Living could be, if you like to do crafts, do something like that. Living could be helping somebody else. You use that technology to do that so that our lives can be more enriched with doing other things.
Yes. And so many people miss that. So
Yeah,
many people think that it's, that they
it's
just live on the technology.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the beginning and end all, and it's not.
no. And what a lot of, unfortunately, too, you mentioned, the convenience of, like, say, cooking, for example. Like, most people, if we were to lose all electricity and these satellites were to, like, even we had some solar flares or something happening here in the, where I live, we could see the aurora borealis,
Mhm.
which is not normal. um, but it's so beautiful, but it's also, impacts electromagnetic stuff in the sky, which means impacts yourself. So if we lose our cell phones, you know how many people just, like, lose their minds?
But you know, I, I'm creating children's books at the moment, and and somehow something is in me that I'm not doing ebooks because bookstops are there, and Africa, South America, and a lot of Asian don't have Amazon. And I'm not knocking Amazon; it's good.
Yeah.
But that holding a book, that vibration and energy from those words, there is so much, because I had things before, and the technology, and then click click. There is nothing like holding a book
Yes.
and
Yeah.
turning those pages. And if you see something, marking that book, and then it has a different feel. It has a different feel altogether. And could you imagine if, as you said, if our technology went down,
Mhm.
what book or what thing are you going to read? Because it's all online and you can't get to it.
Yeah.
So we really have to think.
And even outside of that too, like there's some people, like, it hurts my heart to think that some people, their only connection is with other people online,
And
and
that's
they
another thing. It's a lifesaver in that sense.
yes.
And it is about striking a balance where you can do, where you can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Ashley, you're also a singer.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I was in grade school, I went to, like, performing arts high school, and that's what I wanted to do, but heard earlier, kind of changed my trajectory. So yeah, no, I sing in a rock band here in St. Louis. Everyone else in the band, they are lawyers. I am not. So the name of our band is, Bourbon Jury. I like bourbon, and they're the jury.
So, good name, Bourbon Jury. And again, there you are, lawyers, technology, and yet, what is singing in the band? It's a social thing. You can stay online and sing online, but where do you sing?
Over mostly here in St. Louis at different bars, clubs, and restaurants. So
That's what
it's
I
a
want
fun.
to get to. Where do you sing? Bars, clubs, and restaurants, social places.
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, connecting, coming out, and that social. And yet, I need to say, when you look at society nowadays, I don't know what's happening in the States, but I know here in England, what in Europe they used to do a lot of eating out, and they had their tables on the pavement and so, and you see that a lot in Europe. And it wasn't so in England, but it's become like that over the last 20 years. Now, wintertime, everybody stays in. But summertime, the restaurants, the bars now are extending out on the pavement. And it's so nice. It's so nice to see people sitting outside having their coffee or having a drink or having a meal, and they're talking. And you look left and right, there's so many more eating places and bars and clubs. And so when you think about it, the social side, the one-to-one, is actually growing.
Where you are, not so much here.
This is what I'm saying. I don't know what it's like in America, but
Yeah.
as I'm talking to you now, I didn't really, I noticed it, but I see the significance. And when we're talking about technology, being online and being inside all the time, but here in London, and I think outside London, I'm trying to, because I have seen that difference in that outspread of community on the pavements, eating, drinking, going out, socializing. It is growing.
Yeah.
So, oh,
It
but this is
depends.
what is it like in America? Do they not do that?
It depends on the location, but no. Like I remember in 2023 going to Paris, France with my husband for our wedding anniversary, and we were both just flabbergasted by the number of businesses that had seating outside and how consistently full it was all times a day.
Yes.
It's not like that here.
Oh,
Mm,
but as I say, it started in Europe, it started over there, but England has picked it up,
yeah.
and I've noticed, and it's nice.
No, at least
Enjoy it.
that's part of why I started Presence Over Pixels was because like when I go places, people were not interacting with each other. They were both,
Yeah,
on their phones or
yeah,
even, but also even at restaurants, they're not at full. Every week there are restaurants closing in the States just because people are not going out as much. Now, this has also been a strange year for us, but even last year, I have friends who are business owners and they're having a similar experience. And like anxiety is through the roof here. People here struggle to connect with one
yeah.
another, have conversation with one another.
So if they're not going out, does it mean there are more these takeaways and eating in and being in and that isolation rather than, oh my gosh.
Yeah, in fact, I was reading an article recently how like Gen Z, they some people members of Gen Z actually budget in for DoorDash. I met a business owner earlier this year where his entire business model is when people move to St. Louis, like when a company hires someone to move to St. Louis, he helps to get them acclimated. And he was sharing, this was back in April of this year, he was sharing with me, do you know that after a month of people being here, I follow up with them and ask, have you gone to, these places that I recommended? He said, all of them say no. And he was like, what about the restaurant? He was like, they order their food in and they're not going out and seeing people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad.
I love eating out. I love going out to eat. I love going out socializing. I love it.
I
I
mean,
really do. And I suppose some people might say, yeah, you're eating out and it's cheaper to eat it. Yeah, it may be cheaper than you, but you work, and then you come and cook, which is nice. It's
yeah.
nice to come in and have friends in, but it's also nice to go out to a good restaurant with good food, not just, you know, pizza to me is glorified bread with topping. I'm sorry if I've offended anybody, but to me it's just so I do like going out too, and I like to try different foods and different, different cultured foods, and it's nice. And we've got so many different ones here in London. So that's very sad because people are not coming out to socialise. So it means they're staying on their phone, talking on the video or talking rather than going out and having fresh air and experiencing that one-to-one and that atmosphere. Oh, come on, stage. You need to shake yourself. You need to
Even like
socialize.
even the club scene here, like I said, I'm 41 and I didn't go to clubs much in my 20s because I had my kids, but a lot of my friends they were always at clubs in their 20s and having fun. And,
Mm.
and my son, who's 23, he's let me know, like a lot of his friends don't go out like he does. And he dances because he was raised by me, but a lot of kids don't go out. And when they do go out, they're not dancing. Even at concerts, when I go to concerts, people aren't engaged. They're just, recording and they're missing out on what you're talking about is the connection with people and having that shared experience. So yeah, no, we do have a problem over here.
Yeah, no, we need to change that. We need to change that. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you so much to tell us about your business, because you're walking the walk, talking the talk, walking the walk, and that's wonderful. Are you doing? Are you with any groups or any things where people connect or anything like that? Are you doing on what do I want to say? Are there any events that you may hold or produce that people can connect with you?
Actually, next year I am trying to host an event that is designed to teach people how to reconnect with each other. So if people were to go to my website, presenceoverpixels.com, they can sign up for the mailing list and keep in touch with upcoming events. There's an event next month that I'm hosting called Analog Redux, where everyone actually gives me their phone at the beginning of the event, and it's a scavenger hunt on one of our local streets with lots of local businesses. And everyone's gonna get like a time, like a watch, an analog watch, a cassette player, a cassette tape, and be immersed in analog technology. But yeah, presenceoverpixels.com, sign up for the newsletter and you can find out the future events.
Presenceoverpixels.com.
Yes.
Okay. So before we say thank you and goodbye, leave us with some little gold nugget that you can share with us and viewers that will help us along our journey to our spirituality.
Don't be afraid of the quiet and the silence and the stillness. That quiet, silent stillness is where we have the opportunity to listen and to feel what spirit is trying to communicate with us. So don't be afraid of it.
Ashley Renee, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this lovely conversation we've had. Thank you for the journey that you've had to go through and found strength and now can share. And through your strength, you share it with your children and those around you. Thank you for standing up and realizing this isn't for me in this church. Standing back, it takes courage. And thank you for actually standing up and voicing it there, because it does take courage. And I thank all my viewers today for joining us. And I hope you've been able to get some gold nuggets from that and you find the courage that it can be done. Your spiritual journey is your spiritual journey. You are worthy. You are loved. We are all from the Creator. Nobody's exempt from that. And it's down to us to stand back and make the time to connect, to breathe, and to get that guidance that will help us to face any eventuality in our life. So from me, Senti Sewa, bye for now. And from Ashley, there in St. Louis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for joining. Bye for now.